Reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings.
Swing voters don't like Harris. How big a drag is Kamala Harris on the ticket?
She's a pretty big drag. I think she was arguably Biden's worst political decision.
They don't like her. There's lots of reasons they don't like her.
Kamala Harris's approval rating is now at 28%, which is an historic low for any modern vice president.
We're hearing it from mainstream media, one outlet after another, one leak after another. That Kamala Harris is the worst vice president ever, the worst politician ever.
We don't see the vice president. What people are saying to me, and I'm sure they're saying it to you, where's the vice president? Some White House officials are feeling that she came off looking unprepared for inevitable questions about when she might visit the southern border.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
The point that Lester Holt was making was obvious to anyone else who was watching this interview, which is that the issues at the border are inextricably linked with the portfolio that she's been given.
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
Bidenomics is working.
Prices have gone up. And families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up.
He picked Kamala Harris to be his running mate. She was ranked and is ranked as the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. So he could have gone the other way, but he went to the left.
Joe Biden is running for re-election, and I will be his ticket mate. Full stop. Full stop. Sit.
Why Chinese Americans support Trump? All right. So the reason is the Democrat administration, Biden administration, lead this country towards socialism and eventually towards communist dictatorship. We came from China. We know this is the way. This is not like people here don't understand what is a communist is. We know communist is, what communist is. That's why we support Trump.
This is really interesting because I'm also Chinese American myself. So
you haven't lived in China, I guess.
I did. I grew up in China. I grew up in China till I was 17. I'm from Shanghai, but yeah, I don't want to talk about my opinions because I'm a journalist. So I just want to hear more about your opinions. You know, as immigrants, a lot of people might say that Trump is anti-immigrants, or
Trump is not anti-immigrant. It's just against illegal immigrant. Right. It must be lawfully, orderly.
Hi, my name is Sally Hartman. I'm a volunteer with the Center for Worker Justice. I want to know, when you become president, would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one. On day one. And thank you for your
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
No, there's more. Look at this. They just keep coming.
Go inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get in your house now! Let's go! Light him up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
Get in!
Oh, God, that hurt. You good?
Are you okay?
Right on the fucking crotch.
Are you okay? You got hit?
I'm good. They're fucked for that, dude. What?
Okay.
All right, I think we got a good one this week. I want to get into some of the problems I'm having with these social media companies and some of the things they're doing to me, just to give you an idea of how your information is being censored and tailored by people who don't like you. We're also going to get into the Kamala Harris and Tim Walz campaign, just some of the hot messes and what these people stand for, get into some clips with them, and then I'm going to go over some of my favorite clips from the week from social media. You ready? Let's get into it.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I don't want you to write. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the streets. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Has the whole world gone crazy? Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the rules?
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know. I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore. Welcome to another Thursday, folks. Got quite a bit to go over. I want to point out, some of the fallacies about that. I mean, this Kamala campaign, it's 100% fake. Every single bit of it is fake, and I just can't take it. And I understand that there are zombies who just hate Trump to whatever level, but I can't. And I need people to understand what these people really stand for, and I'm going to go over some of that. We're also going to go over some of the screwing around here in the States with respect to censorship. For the moment, it's legal because there's no connection between at least the media, the social media company that's not coming after me, but squashing my distribution and kind of setting the stage to explain it later. And then, what the Brits are going through, as some clips about, some of the stuff that they're dealing with. Some of it I showed in the initial flow, but in the ticker, but I'm going to go over it again because on some of the platforms I do take off the ticker. Everybody should be able to comment and be highlighted and heard. So Coach, stand up and fight. Yes, got you, Patriot, got you. Thank you for jumping on. And I believe, just looking at the image, that you were the one that was saying you were going to come over to X. For those that don't know, and I'm going to get into this a little more, I don't want to call them out by name, so I'm going to say book, right? So, yeah, and basically that's where the crux of my following has been, and the reason for that, and I'll give you the history of it. So I have about 18,000, although they're constantly not adding on followers that follow. They'll alert me that they followed, but they don't add them to the total, and then on the other side, they delete a few a day. So they've been doing this for about 2 months. And I went through this about a year and a half ago with them. So I don't know if it'll stop again like it did then, but I'm not even worried about it now. I'm trying to just migrate. And so if you're on that platform and you're watching me there, engage, comment, all of that, you know what I mean? Don't unfollow here. Don't unfollow there. I mean, just hang with me, but get over to X, and definitely I'd appreciate it if you could give me a follow there. I am slow. It takes a while if you've never done a podcast and you're not like, Glenn Beck or Dan Bongino or in the Daily Wire. It takes a lot to grow organically on a platform. So, right now, it's been a few months now. I'm up to like 650 followers there. But as it grows, you start to pass thresholds. And the first one is 1,000 followers. The first one, like, they let you do extra stuff. There's things, it helps your distribution and all of that. And knowing that in this coming season, it's going to be a dark place to be, to be on these other platforms. YouTube is one. YouTube, I don't care about calling out by name because I only stream there. I stream there because as of about a year and a half ago, I had about 1,400 followers, and I still have about that number. But YouTube was just to the point where they were almost harassing me. Like, I wasn't even putting out a video that they didn't like, and they're sending me emails telling me about how they're going to hurt my distribution and this and that. And I just got done with them and said, screw it. But the way that I got the following on Facebook is one of the things that motivated me to keep this going and get the Article 5 message out, as well as other topics like the stuff we'll go over today. But Article 5, as you know, is my main crux on this channel. So, and one of the things that got me moving on Facebook was that initially when Jack and I had started this channel, we were focused on YouTube, mostly because we didn't really know what we were doing, and YouTube was kind of the easiest platform to work with. So when I posted to Facebook, I would post links of YouTube videos. And hence, whenever you post a link to something, and this is understandable, Facebook will not overly promote it because they're trying to keep you on Facebook. So from a business model standpoint, I understand that. But I didn't know that. So we just kept posting these YouTube links, and it would get us some exposure and some views and whatever. But after one of my many YouTube bans, there was one point where it overlapped, and I got a ban, and then I got another ban like 2 weeks later. I have no idea why still to this day. They tell you the policy you violated, but you don't know what you did. So I got banned. Now there's a 2-month stretch where if I get another strike, they take my whole channel down. So I made a decision to start uploading directly to Facebook. And man, was that a good decision? So at that time, when I did this with YouTube, I want to say we had about 1,300 followers or so. We were about a year in. We had 1,300 followers. I don't post like crazy. I wasn't actively, doing all the little things either. I will say that to try and get exposure and get your channel promoted. But once I started uploading to Facebook directly, like boom, things just took off. I mean, I went from, at the time we had like 1,000 followers on Facebook, and within a matter of months, I was up to 10,000, getting monetized, the whole 9 yards. Videos were getting 65,000 views. I mean, YouTube, even a successful video on YouTube might have gotten 1,000 or so. These videos were getting 16,000 with like 20,000 1 minute or longer, which shows that people were engaged. So we were getting great numbers, and then Facebook figured out that that they didn't like my content. It was pretty obvious during the stretch where I was growing rapidly and thinking, wow, all right, I think we've got some progress here. We can get the word out. There were moments. There were like 2 or 3 day spans where the whole page would just slow down, right? Even if you've ever had a popular page, you notice trends, and you notice like every day you're getting certain videos that you did just hit, and you're getting these views every day from them, likes and whatever, reactions. All of a sudden, for like a 2 or 3 day span, it just all stopped, and I was like how is the whole page all of a sudden, like, because at first I was blaming myself, saying, well, maybe it's just my content. Maybe I got to relook at what I'm doing, maybe position it a different way. Maybe I need better video graphics to be more engaging, all of it. And so I started messing with that and blaming myself. But then I took a video that I really felt was going to hit. And so I put it up during this period, and it did horrible. And then I waited, and then the period ended, and I started seeing everything else, started getting back to, you're getting reactions, you're getting this and that, all on everything, on old videos, new videos, everything. So I took that same video and I reposted it during that time. And the video was great. It wasn't the best video I ever did, but it got like 40,000 views. It was, getting 1,000 or so reactions, or 2,000, whatever it was. Good enough to show me that it wasn't the video, it was something else. And then that's how I started to realize what was going on. And then when I finally did go through the monetization process, I tested it with a couple of videos that I thought would do really well. One of which is still one of the most watched videos I've ever done. This is back when I wasn't just live, I was producing things and posting. And I had noticed that over time, this whole CPS and child trafficking scheme going on, and all of these local news stations that have been reporting it, but getting no views for reporting it. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. I should make a compilation of this. So I went and searched them all, put them together, put together this piece on child trafficking with respect specifically to CPS, Child Protective Services, and how the whole thing is likely linked and how the government funds this stuff. Well, the video went nuts, right? It went wild. That and the other video did very well too, and I got paid like $1,000 for the 2 videos. I was pretty happy. I was pretty shocked. And then it's almost on cue. As soon as that money cleared, the slowdown started again, page wide, everything. And now it's kind of in a limbo where, because I do just live, they just like, I'll have 18,000 followers, but they'll show my content. I'll get like 58 impressions. 70 impressions or whatever. Little better now that I have the add followers piece, but even then, like, it's supposed to be a once a day feature that you're supposed to be allowed to add on, to something to let all of your followers see it. And even then they let like 100 see it or whatever, but better than 50. So I was like, all right, so be it. Most of my following at this point kind of know they have to come here and check it out. So, and they may have to check it out later because live is really, it's tough, but especially when you're not overly known. So recently, and I posted this, I got this notification that says we've put a false information tag on this post that you made, and the fact check is below, but they don't show me the post that I made. So I go and I look at the fact check, and the fact check, the fact check was about COVID, which I haven't posted about in forever. But it was about COVID, and they're saying that in my post, and I have to take their word for it because I don't know what frickin' post it is, that I was saying that it was a bioweapon. Now, for those that have been watching the broadcast, I've never ruled out it being a bioweapon, but I've also never guaranteed that it was a bioweapon. I simply make the point repeatedly that whether it was made as a weapon or leaked and then used as a weapon, it's the same thing. Right? To me, it's the same thing. But if it were leaked and used as a weapon, it was definitely used as a political weapon. There's no doubt about it. I mean, in my opinion, right? And I got to make sure I'm saying my opinion when I say no doubt about it, right? Because this is how the Nazis work. So, but in the end, like once that, whether it was accidentally leaked, which happens, all right, it doesn't change the fact that it was engineered, that it was funded by the U.S., and that Wuhan lab was funded by the U.S., and that whether it leaked or was released, does it really matter? It was taken advantage of as a political weapon. So anyway, they did this. On the bottom, they tell me about how they're going to limit my distribution because of a post with false information. And I'm like, to me, until I see different, until they show me a post that actually says what they say I said, because I'm not going back through 3 years of posts to check it out. They're playing with my page anyway. So, but in the end, unless they come and tell me what it is, I got to look at it for what it is. I got to look at it as being just an excuse to kind of set the stage for being able to start, explaining why they had to lower my distribution. Because unlike YouTube, who will just kick you off, like Facebook is a little more dubious about it. They'll leave you on. They'll let you post, but they'll just not show it to anyone. And when I say not show it to anyone, you might be thinking to yourself, well, what the heck? I could just go ahead and, share it. And I can get my following to share it, and everybody will share it, and then it'll get distribution that way. Well, it doesn't quite work that way, because what they do is they put whatever the hell electronic tag they put on your content. If you share it, then the tag still stays with the video, so no one in your feed will see it. And I've literally had videos that I've done that had like 600 shares. Well, no, I'm sorry. It was like 100 shares and like 112 views, which is almost impossible. Even like in any way you look at it, stats like that make no sense. But I've had videos like that. And that's how I came to the determination that even though people share it, it's still holding this tag, because everything with these companies is cryptic. And when they hear me, especially when they hear me going off on the, the CCP, right? The Charlie Patriot, I should call them, right? Because if they hear that acronym, they'll be like, oh, he's talking about them again. Like that's when I did pieces on them about China grabbing gold, it's stockpiling gold and doing things like this. I think it was the third quarter last year, something like that, where it was just like a record amount of gold that they purchased, and they're still purchasing, even though they claim that they've stopped. They're still purchasing. So like, and it was a concern. It still is a concern, right? But when I put stuff like that. When I would put out stuff like that, that's when these little bans would happen. And so I'm trying to make the point here on the larger scale that get ready for all of your social media. And this is why I'm asking you to follow me on X, because in the end, we're getting ready for censorship season. Like that's what we're in right now. It is censorship season. You may think that what you're looking at or what you're watching is legitimate, and it may be whatever it is that they allow through the censors, but what you're not seeing is what's going on in the world. What you're not seeing is everything that is happening to prove the democratic machine, the Marxist elite, are doing. Anybody who reports on any of that, talks about any of that, shares any of that, is going to get dinged. This has now become a reality, and it's not just the book. It's everyone. It's almost everyone, right? I mean, I got Rumble, right? But Rumble's tough to grow. I don't know. Rumble doesn't seem to follow the growth rules, the general rules of thumb that everyone else does when it comes to growth. People do well there that are already big, or spent, focus only on Rumble and really, but I've kind of developed a pattern on what it is to start to grow on a social media network, based on my own channel. And so I'm not 1 million subscribers or anything like that. I'd love to be, right? But that's not at the moment where I'm at. So I know what it is. I know the trends and how it goes. Your first 100 takes forever. The second 100's a little bit easier. Then it kind of levels out, and you grow at a consistent pace until about 1,000. And then when you get to 1,000, it's sort of, I don't know if it's a psyche thing or whatever, but things start to move after that. And I think what moves is that the company is looking at people at a certain threshold, and it's usually 1,000. Facebook was 10,000, but for most of them it's 1,000, and then they'll start to say, all right, this guy's got 1,000 followers, we can start distributing his content. And so, but we're in for censorship season, and the Brits obviously are already dealing with this, and I wanted to share a clip with you regarding it, and I have some Kamala and Walz clips to share as well in just a moment. But in light of what I'm talking about, right? Because speech is something that needs to be controlled if Marxists are going to succeed. And you see the same things happening here, happening everywhere. Period. You see it happening everywhere. This is not a United States problem. This is a global problem. For the world's sake, it's a United States problem, because if we don't get it, if we allow it to continue, then the world falls with us. That's the bottom line. If we allow Marxism truly into the gates, right? They've infiltrated all kinds of systems. They've infiltrated our media. They've infiltrated our movies and entertainment. They've infiltrated our universities. They've spent 70 years at this, and they pretty much have fully infiltrated all of it now, to the point where the people that believe in it don't even know that they've been had. They don't even know how many generations the BS that they've come to believe that they were taught in schools, especially schools like Harvard, Yale, etc., who teach things like modern monetary theory and all of that. Why? Because modern monetary theory gives an enemy an opportunity to crush our currency. That's why we believe in modern monetary theory. It's not a coincidence that we came off the dollar and started on this path of inflation-ridden nonsense and centrally controlled. It's no doubt that this came in that timing, in the 70s, where they had first, got their first indoctrinated generation in the late 60s. They've been at it since the 50s, and the Federal Reserve was created as early as 1913. But it became clear to all the same doot-to-doos that, probably, different generations, but the same type of doot-to-doo who was okay with the Fed being brought into existence, was the same group of billionaire doot-to-doos, trillionaire doot-to-doos, really, who were perfectly understanding that we need to get off the gold standard because there's not enough money for them to make. They need full control of that dollar, right? So the CCP has been controlling all of this. They manipulate, whether they control fully, they manipulate, right? So what I deal with on social media, this is coming from them. If you're dumb enough to have TikTok on your phone, you're getting it directly from the source. Like, I don't understand people with TikTok on their phone. I really don't. Why on earth? There's no doubt that the CCP is by far, there's not even a close number two. All right, forget the U.S. deep state. It's freaking child's play compared to the amount of manipulation and ownership of organizations that the CCP has accumulated over the course of the last 75 years or so. And a lot of that was accumulated by the Soviets first, but the CCP, once the Soviets fell, slipped right in there. Right in there. Started instituting their Confucius Institutes and all the backstory stuff, manipulating with money, right? Because that's what, it's the greedy in America. And despite the narrative, it is true. It is the greedy in America who will sell their souls for this type of stuff. Like, you always get those people who just, money is everything, and they will sell, their soul has a price, and they sell it to the highest bidder, which has been the CCP for the last, since 1990. Before that, it was Russia, Soviet Union. And that's just real talk. Give me 1 second, folks. My phone is blowing up, and when it blows up, I have to check, because sometimes they'll be on there saying, oh, no one's been able to hear you for the last 20 minutes and you've been talking to yourself. So when you're your own producer, when you're a one-man show, you've got to kind of, make sure that you stay on top of this kind of stuff. And then keep in mind, folks, if you have anything to chime in, whether it's Twitter or X, whether it's X, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your comments, I can see them all, and I can highlight them and respond as well. So, but I want to get to this clip. Let me get back to my studio here. So I want to get to this clip regarding the Brits, because this is where they're trying to head us, and I'm going to explain again why they can't do this to us. Where is that clip? Here we go. So a Brit was arrested and went to court over a Facebook post.
Went on to say that you did not want your money going to immigrants who, quote, rape our kids and get priority, end quote. This offence is so serious that an immediate custodial sentence is...
I just want you to listen to this again, what he actually posted, because it was 100% spot on.
Say that you did not want your money going to immigrants who, quote, rape our kids and get priority.
Now, just for context, these illegals that have been in Britain literally have been raping children for weeks, maybe longer. But the story I got from what was it, Timothy Robinson, was who's on the ground journalist who's all over it. All right. And the story he puts out is that they've been raping these kids for weeks, children. All right. Children. So the quote that what this guy said was 100% spot on.
End quote. This offence is so serious that an immediate custodial sentence is unavoidable.
So he's sitting here saying what you said was, that truth that you gave was so bad. It was such a bad truth and made us look so bad that sentencing is unavoidable.
Would you stand, please? The sentence that I pass has been reduced by 1/3 to reflect your guilty plea. The sentence is one of 20 months imprisonment.
20 months.
Went on to
20 months in jail. 20 months, almost 2 years for a Facebook post. Now, some people are saying, well, this can happen. This can happen in the United States. And as of right now, no, it can't. and this is why, and I love to educate people on the reasons for this. This is why you hear people say, we are not a democracy, we are a constitutional republic. And the fact that a constitutional republic is technically a form of democracy because we elect our leaders, the similarities end at that moment. Right, so so I don't want you to be someone who goes out there and someone starts going, yes, we are a democracy, it's the same thing, and you can't articulate why. So here's what the difference is. It is manifested in this being impossible in the United States under our Constitution. All right. Now, if it all goes to hell and they throw out the Constitution, then nothing applies. But as long as the Constitution is in play, they've tried. They've tried to pass hate speech laws, and they have all failed. They have all failed. Why? Because we're a constitutional republic. See, in a democracy, yeah, we both elect our leaders. Now, in a democracy, when they elect their leaders then have free reign to legislate as they wish. And there are some constitutional items and things, but the problem is the things in everyone else's constitution are not given to them by God. Their rights are not, the laws of nature. They are not given to them by their creator. The government gives it to them. So they can legislate away a lot. And so when people used to say, there's that one clip, I forget what it was, the name of it, but where the guy sits there and says, America's not the greatest country in the world. Blah, 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 blah. And he goes off and rattles off all these statistics, says, well, do you think because we're free? There are 160 countries that are free. And I always comment on it saying, no, there aren't. Because they think they're free, they feel free. At that moment, they were able to go out and do whatever they want, but they're only free as long as they're allowed to be free. There is no allowing a United States citizen to be free. Because under the constitutional republic, leaders don't have that carte blanche to just write whatever legislation they want. They are restricted. They are bound to the Constitution. And the Constitution clearly states that we have the creator-given right to free speech. Well, the creator terms are in Declaration, whatever. But the point is, our founding documents clearly state that our creator has given us our rights, that these rights are inalienable, that they cannot, there is no law you can come out to say, well, we've determined something is hate speech and therefore it's illegal. And this has been, there's enough precedent to serve this that it's not even debatable. And this is one of the challenges. Second Amendment is the same thing. No, they can't come in and just ban guns. They can't do it. In a democracy, they can. They can just make them illegal. And the majority will vote for it. And not the majority of the people, the majority in the chambers will vote for it, and it will be done. And the idea is, well, now you got to vote in different people to change that. Well, you can't do that in a constitutional republic. It's a significant difference, and it matters. And I'm listening to these Harvard-educated idiots pretending to be historians, talking about because democracy is used in the common vernacular, that somehow makes it okay. It's not okay. And this is why civics was removed from classrooms. Because and you hear the United States called a democracy everywhere around you for your entire life, from birth till now. And in Hollywood and every movie you watch, presidents say it, everybody says it. And they're all wrong, all of them. And correcting someone on this is something you should be proud of, but you should understand how to articulate that argument, because this kind of stuff can never happen. It just can't. And we get into this, and I'm saying, where's Tim? Where's my boy Tampon Tim? Here he is. So Tampon Tim Walz, all right, that was a good segue into the Kamala campaign and the fakeness of all of it. All right, and the stuff that they won't broadcast, and they're painting these people like they're some kind of heroes. They're Marxists. If you're not a Marxist, I don't care what generation you're in, if you're not a Marxist, you cannot vote for these people. Period. And on the free speech topic, all right, so here's Tim Walz on free speech.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
He hit everything, right? In our democracy, instead of our constitutional republic, again, repetition of words, they own language, folks, and words matter. Okay? If you're thinking, oh, it doesn't matter what they call it, words matter. The entire process of putting us in this dystopia that we've been building for the past 60 years, the entire process of it was based not on guns, but on words. They've taken control of the word racism. It now applies to anybody they disagree with. They've got generations of people who will fraudulently use it that way. They call us a democracy when they know that we're not, because democracies are a lot easier to take over. Democracies fall a lot faster. And we have Lord knows I know, we have a process to change the Constitution or amend it, right? Add something to it if we wish. But it's a process, and it's a process that takes time. It takes time, and it takes a lot of consensus that they will never get on Marxist principles. They will simply never get it. I mean, that's just fact. They just won't get it. And they know it. They know it. And there's nothing that scares them, mind you. Nothing that scares them. Nothing scares a Marxist. The ones who truly understand, like the ones who educated themselves on civics. I'm not talking about the doo-doo on the street who's swinging their Palestinian flag. Like the gays for Palestine. I'm not talking about those imbeciles. I'm talking about people who actually understand what the movement's trying to accomplish and understand what things can get in its way. There is nothing that scares them more than an Article 5 convention of states to restrict the power of the federal government. Nothing. So while I am a small channel and I may not have the million followers and this and that, my message, they need to get me early. Like, they need to make sure, like, they're not going to wait until I grow into something big, then start doing it to me, right? Because then I can move off and get a locals or do whatever and do my own thing. They're not interested in that. They're trying to just, look, we got somebody out there talking about Article 5. They know that if we put in, all right, if we put in term limits, impose, I should say, if we impose term limits on the federal government, because the federal government has no say in this process. If we impose that, if we impose fiscal restraints, modern monetary theory is over. I mean, it will still exist because we're still in a fiat currency, but they won't be able to run up the type of debt. It's like, and I hope you understand, like your taxes, like you're not still the person who thinks your taxes build roads and bridges and stuff, right? Your taxes are there to control your spending. Like the government doesn't want to control its spending. No, it raises taxes and interest rates so that you can't spend. That's how this works. Inflation is a tax. And the fact of the matter is, that's why, otherwise, under modern monetary theory, the government can print whatever it wants. It doesn't need your tax money. It'll just print money. But the problem is, it's blowing so much money, it needs to regulate that because inflation is real if it prints too much. So rather than curb its own spending, they tax higher and raise interest rates and curb your spending. This is the way that economics in the United States really works with respect to our currency. And they allow your money to be worth less. Every penny your dollar loses is a tax. Every penny. And right now, the dollar is worth about a penny on the dollar to where it was when we started to get off the gold standard. It's almost inflated. We've almost lost 100% of its value to where it was when we had a commodity-based currency, meaning there was gold, this much gold to back up this piece of paper. Once we got off that, and that actually happened, I believe, a little bit earlier than the gold standard officially being walked away from, but in the end, it doesn't matter. Once they started this game, all right, the inflation was just another back-end way to tax you. And it doesn't matter the roads, bridges, none of that matters to whether or not you're taxed a lot or a little. The government wants to do that under the current policies and the current theory that has been running this economic system and our currency for the past 60 years or so. If they want to build something, they just build it, dude. Period. They build it and they raise your taxes, not to build it, but to keep spending down so that they can print more and spend on their frivolous garbage. When a responsible government, one that was truly listening to the people, would know, you know what, let's curb our spending so that people can continue to live their lives normally. This is not what our government has been doing. And this is under Trump, too. Yeah, he cut taxes, whatever. I paid more that year. I don't know how that worked, but he cut taxes. But he's cutting investment taxes and capital gains and things like that, which is fine. That helps an economy. But the debt clock shot through the roof just as fast with him as it does. As a matter of fact, it sped up a bit, as it does with every president that comes in. The only way to get these things under control is on our own. Is to directly implement these things, and Marxists know that. And the second that we start gathering, as we already have, but we're at 19 states now, we need 2/3, which is 34. When that number gets to like 23, 24, and they do tend to come in bunches. There's like a year or two of dry spell, and then bang, 4 or 5 come over. Right? It was 2 years ago we got those 4, and then this year was nothing, and now next year, yeah, we may still squeeze something in this year. There's still some stuff going on, but in the end, we'll get there. But the sooner we'll get there a lot faster when people understand it, and that's why this channel is worth doing and worth getting on once a week to have this conversation. And as always, if anybody, no matter what I'm talking about today or any other day, if you have questions regarding Article 5, or you have a friend that is telling you, oh, it's going to be a runaway convention, or there's certain arguments that are the only arguments from the fearmongers, and they're uneducated, but people don't know any better, so they believe it, which is okay, but it's not okay to not ask more questions. So, if you have those people, they're around you, they're telling you, oh, it's scary, Article 5, they're going to do George Soros is going to take it over. There's a lot of BS out there, in particular JBS, all right, that talks this kind of nonsense, and I'll be happy to address any of it at any time live on the broadcast while this happens. Because, in the end, it's the only solution. Like Donald Trump we need him, but he's a Band-Aid. Like, don't lose sight of the prize. He could help us with the China piece. He could help us with the foreign relations piece. He could put out some of these fires around the world. He could help our border. Those are things that a president can do. But if we secure the border, we fix the foreign relations, we get back into its place of good standing where people legitimately fear us, we get all those things done, and we're still going down the cliff. Because financially, the cliff is paved with dollars. And if we don't do something, and something with teeth, not just some symbolic gesture, presidents are not going to stop the spending that goes on in Congress, right? But if we put in an amendment to the Constitution that says a single subject amendment, let's say, all omnibus bills are dead, all of them. Good luck getting 3/4 of the states and to apply for, or 3/4 of the states to ratify an amendment taking away a single subject amendment. Good luck with that. That's going to be there permanently. And most states do it already, so it's almost a lock that gets approved. Same thing with the balanced budget amendment. Balance the budget, and then you add the teeth, right? Congress, any Congress member that is a part of a Congress, this is just an example, that has not balanced the budget in, 2 or more fiscal years, less a natural disaster or something along those lines, then you know what? You're out. You can't run again. You can't run again. Period. Because you're not fiscally responsible. We thought you were, but you're not, so now we're done. Right? And that gets imposed. Like, the federal government literally has to just sit there and watch that happen. Once the 34 states apply, there's no avenue for the government to try and thwart that or stop it or get involved in the delegates, in the commissions, the commissioners. They don't have any control over any of that. And they certainly have never had control over the ratification process. I mean, it's a high bar. Everybody's dream amendment is not going to get passed. But in the end, just pass term limits, pass a balanced budget amendment, and knock out these regulatory agencies, and we should be good. Not good. There's still other issues. But what needs to happen is that this process needs to complete itself. so that all the fear mongers and crazy people get knocked away, no longer argue that for whatever reason we don't know how to hold conventions and that there's no precedent. There's plenty of precedent for it. They've done 2 mock conventions. Everybody who went in there, they were almost all of them were state legislators. They all knew how to conduct that convention. All of them. Because it's something they do in the state legislatures all the time. Like, this is not, I don't know. There's a part of me that just gets really bothered by this whole thing because I just feel like people don't get it. Like they think that there's some other solution. But there isn't. This is it, folks. This is it. I've been barking about this now for coming on 3 years. I'm going to keep barking until it sticks. You need to go to conventionestates.com. You need to sign that petition they have. It's not just a petition like we're like we're at a bake sale. This is a petition that's going to alert your local representatives of what your intentions are regarding Article 5. And you need to pay attention to those, and you need to your state legislator needs to know where you stand. And you need to get active and get other people going. This entire process takes place locally. It's your representative in your district, not the President of the United States, that's going to make the difference. That's how the Republic was designed to operate. That's how this entire system was designed to operate, and we don't know that. Like, we don't know that. And it drives me nuts that we don't know that. It drives me nuts that we have been duped, and myself included. I'm not exempt from this, but as soon as you figure it out, and as soon as you do the reading on Article 5, and as soon as you get through all the fear-mongering and all that stuff, and you get back to the founder's intent and what was the thought process when this was placed, like once you get through all of that, it literally is like a light goes on. It's like, because I had my moments too. When I first heard this, I was like, what? How could I not know about this? Went back, immediately read Article 5, was like, oh, it is legit. So then I started listening to JBS and this Publius Holder Doo who's running around the country barking the same stuff. The Soros groups who are all barking the same stuff. It's going to be a runaway convention. The Soros groups do it out of fear. JBS, I don't understand their motives. That's the John Birch Society. I don't understand their motives. I don't. They themselves spent their entire initial existence trying to get amendments passed through convention and failed. But they spent years on it. And now all of a sudden, something changed. Something changed. But the fact of the matter is, whatever changed, it doesn't really matter to me because they're wrong. And when you read the history and you understand the precedent and you get yourself involved, you'll understand. And you go and you sign that petition. They send a letter to your representative. Then you send a letter. Make it handwritten so they open it. I mean, most of them open it anyway, but you should write it handwritten. And get 10 friends to do it. Because it's a lot easier. This is why they did this, folks. It's a lot easier, all right, to remove a local legislator than it is a president or a senator or whatever. A local legislator, 500 votes in many cases, can swing that election. Like it's not like you need to garner 1 million people or thousands and thousands of people. You should, but as an individual, that's not needed. As an individual, you can get 10. 10. That's it. And as those individuals understand it and learn it, they get 10. And that's how you get thousands. And you get a few thousand in any given state, your legislator is going to listen. He's going to pay attention because that's a lot of people to bus into the polls, right? You're pretty much going to wipe out their entire ground game operation just by showing up. And they're going to listen. And this needs to be one of the things that you put on your priority. This needs to be one of the things like, you don't have to be a jerk about it. These are generally good people. On the state level, these are good people. Like I watch Convention of States grassroots go out. I watch how they engage these folks. They come at them with sugar. They don't come at them with vinegar. They come at them with sugar. They respect the fact that many of these people are statesmen. These are not like federal congressmen. Some of them don't get paid at all. And it's like in New Hampshire, they haven't given Congress, their state legislature, a raise since the 1700s. Literally. Like those people are civil servants. These are the types of people that we need on our side. These are the types of people that the founders set up our republic. They set it up with them to wield power. They set it up with a healthy fear of the federal government. They knew what it would grow into. And here we are. They gave us contingencies to fix that. State legislatures gave away one of them with the 17th Amendment and started allowing senators to be directly elected, meaning they can't pull them if they go in and suck. Which is how it was set up. That, hey, if the senators go in and you don't like the way your senator is representing your state, Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, you don't have to sit there and listen to him for 6 years. You go to your local representative and say, hey, I want this person out. And everybody else goes to him and says, hey, we want this person out. And then that person was out. Well, they gave up that ability. They gave up that ability the same year they imposed income tax and created the Fed. You think that's a coincidence? 1913. Have fun looking that one up. The 16th and 17th Amendments passed, and the Fed on the 23rd of December at night, not even before a full Congress, they enacted the Fed. They empowered the Fed, or created it, however you want to say that. These people are evil. The government is inherently evil. By nature, it grows out of control. They all do. They all do. Founders understood this. They were very well studied, very well read. It's why that they purposefully and are quoted all over the place about how they wanted to avoid democracy at all costs because they understood history. And now we've got a government trying to circumvent the citizens, trying to usurp the Constitution by using the private sector as a weapon. This needs to stop. And when I say that, I get back to that point. No president's going to stop that. Even if a Supreme Court does make a decision here and there, there's just too many decisions to make. There's no way to take every single one of these instances up to the Supreme Court, and they know it. And if we haven't learned from the Trump trial, there's enough freaking Marxist indoctrinated judges that are out there. I mean, Obama went nuts. People don't realize this. Obama went nuts appointing federal judges during his tenure. There was an absurd amount of justices that were appointed that particular year. If you're wondering where all these crazy-ass frickin' judges come from who have no respect for the Constitution at all, that's where they came from. And it's the Supreme Court and their decisions over the course of the last 100 years that have gotten us into this frickin' mess in the first place. And there's only one way. All this power that they have, the regulatory agencies are deemed acceptable, right? As long as Congress gives them the proper instruction. Like if you look at what they did with the COVID lockdowns, yeah, they shot it down, but Amy Barrett and Kavanaugh, their opinions were not that it was unconstitutional. Their opinions were there was no direct mandate from Congress to give them that power. In other words, if Congress did give them a direct mandate, then it would be okay. Only Gorsuch turned around and said, no, this is not okay. Even if Congress did give them authorization, they don't have the authorization to give that authorization. He's the only one that got it right. I'll assume that Alito and Thomas were on that page as well. But Barrett and Kavanaugh, no. We're one Supreme Court away from losing everything. And if we even if we get that Supreme Court that we all fear, even if that happens, if we've got this Article 5 process in place, it's okay. We can undo it. Like, you can overturn this. The constitutional amendment is how you overturn the Supreme Court. That's what they did with the 16th Amendment and changed the fiscal policy of the United States forever and took full control over what was supposed to be a free economy. Took full control over it. All right. I'm going to do a little switch up here. I'm not seeing a lot of comments come through, although I do appreciate Jesse Garza, Vicky, Coach Stand Up, and others who might have who have already thrown in some comments. But I want to. There were a couple of other pieces I wanted to show just to highlight what the Kamala campaign is all about. I mean, the whole thing is fake, right? The whole thing is fake. All of it. From the Photoshop pictures to the, from the Photoshop pictures to the freaking, the reading from the teleprompters and the scripted speeches because she can't speak, etc. All of it is fake. We got Nate Lassade over here. I hope I pronounced that right. Watching from Australia. These are worrying times, and you're spot on with everything you're saying. I appreciate you, Nate. Thank you for watching. It's coming from YouTube. I know I don't have the logos up there. It's something I got to click to make that happen. But Nate's commenting over on YouTube, where we oftentimes don't get a big following or a big viewership. But it's nice to see someone there and justifying why I still stream there. It's for my followers there. Nate, give me a follow over on Twitter or X while you still can before they ban it in Australia, because they are coming after Elon Musk. They think they are anyway. How funny is that, right? That they think they can get Elon Musk extradited. Like, how insane has the government of Britain gotten that they would even entertain a notion like that? I mean, it's like America's just like, yeah, okay. Perhaps you don't know how we got all started here. Those are not, you're not really in a position to be making demands, especially when you want to arrest someone for acting under our Constitution 100% legally. So, yeah, that's not going to fly. And so, it is what it is. That was really just comedy. But here's some stuff here's Kamala. We're going to go to Kamala, then back to Tim Walz, then back to Kamala again. So one was this video. So you might have seen it, you might not have, but I brought it with me because it highlights this narrative shift that the left always does and baffles everyone as to how people can be so dumb as to just follow along and not notice these massive shifts that they do. A couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, I showed you how after the debate, where it was clear that the machine was turned on against Joe Biden, right? This was long before he finally, got the coup finally came through and he was told to leave. But it's the media went out the very next day and did that report using the term illegal immigrant. I don't even know if I have that. Do I have that? Because that was just epic. But yeah, listen to how many times this chick uses the word illegal immigrant. Now, we all know, even as short back as the State of the Union address, the president himself had made the mistake of using the term illegal immigrant and was corrected by everyone. But now, because they want to blame it on Joe Biden the same way Trump does, because they're basically telling their voters, we're shifting, so here's all the bad stuff he did, and it was his policy. Listen to this.
In New York, an illegal migrant stands accused of killing a woman and dumping her body in a park. And we now know the suspect arrested in the murder of 2 people in a Chick-fil-A is an illegal migrant. 2 illegal Venezuelan migrants are arrested for the murder of 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary. They face capital murder charges and are each being held on $10 million bond. Yesterday, hundreds of loved ones and friends did pack a Houston funeral home to say
sorry
goodbye to
narrative they're
Jocelyn.
creating,
An
as if
illegal
this was
migrant also charged with
another one.
raping a girl in a separate case in New York. 21-year-old
illegal
Sakir
migrant.
Khan faces first-degree rape charges. New York authorities say the Turkish national raped a 15-year-old girl last month. He illegally entered the U.S. last year and was released into the country under President Biden's border policies.
And that's why I left that going, because I wanted you to hear them blame it on Biden, right? And that's their shift. They moved immediately from, we love Biden, he's totally competent, everything's awesome, to this guy's letting illegal immigrants in, like we didn't know. But all of a sudden, I mean, that was one thing from CNN, and they used the term illegal migrant like 6 times, and then finished it off by saying under all of this disaster happened under Biden's border policy, right? And they shift from loving Biden and there's nothing wrong with the border to look at this, all these illegal migrants are coming in, it's all because of Biden's policy. And the same thing that they did now, they shifted with this Kamala stuff where it. And this is, I'm going to show you where they were, and then you already know where they're at now because you're being inundated with it on social media all the time. Here it is.
There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings.
Swing voters don't like Harris. How big a drag is Kamala Harris on the ticket?
She's a pretty big drag. I think she was arguably Biden's worst political decision.
They don't like her. There's lots of reasons they don't like her.
Kamala Harris's approval rating is now at 28%, which is an historic low for any modern vice president.
We're hearing it from mainstream media, one outlet after another, one leak after another. That Kamala Harris is the worst vice president ever, the worst politician ever.
We don't see the vice president. What people are saying to me, and I'm sure they're saying it to you, where's the vice president? Some White House officials are feeling that she came off looking unprepared for inevitable questions about when she might visit the southern border.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
The point that Lester Holt was making was obvious to anyone else who was watching this interview, which is that the issues at the border are inextricably linked with the portfolio that she's been given.
The border is secure. We have a secure border.
Bidenomics is working. Prices have gone up. And families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up.
He picked Kamala Harris to be his running mate. She was ranked and is ranked as the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. So he could have gone the other way, but he went to the left.
Joe Biden is running for re-election, and I will be his ticket mate. Full stop. Full stop. That's it.
That's where they were on Kamala before the debate. The debate happens. The decision is made. And mind you, they know this entire time. We knew, right? We knew since how long ago did we know that this guy, since he was running in 2020, we knew that he had dementia. You didn't have to be a doctor or an expert to figure that out. You didn't have to. Robbie Gav over on X. Same people making Biden's policy will be making Kamala's. Yeah, absolutely. She's just the next iteration of doo-doo to come in there. And again, people joke and say she's a DEI hire. Conceptually, she is. I mean, in the end, a DEI hire is someone who's hired above their head. All right. They're put into a position where they are clearly unqualified and hence have to depend on everybody around them to succeed. And that is exactly what they want. It's exactly what they want. And her whole career, her whole life has been this way. She has been in one position after another her entire life without earning it or getting there via merit. We all know the Brown story, right? How she, hock-toed her way up to the district attorney's position in San Francisco, then was put up in a pretty much uncontested Senate race to take the Senate seat. Then, after getting almost no votes as a presidential candidate, she gets gifted a vice president position for this exact reason, because these people always think ahead. And now here she is, making these idiotic statements. Whenever the teleprompter is taken from her, she makes the most idiotic statement ever. Right? Prices are high. You're paying a lot for stuff. This is not good. Meanwhile, you're in charge here. Like you're on the team that's supposed to be addressing these things, and yet one after the other, crazy. This, and it's even worse with Congress, with the Republicans in Congress. But at least they can put a sentence together, or put a thought together, or a few thoughts in sequence. This one can't even do that. Can't even do that. I don't know why I was letting the comments take over, sit on my face while there's all this empty space here, but nonetheless, I don't have a. Let me go yell at the producer. I have to start beating myself up. But anyway, just another example of this narrative shift. But they want everyone to believe, like, it's so obvious. Then they put out, the pic. They fill up these mini arenas with middle-aged white women, pretty much exclusively. And then they take pictures and then Photoshop the pictures. And now some of the pictures I've seen may not have been Photoshopped, but some certainly were. And I don't know that they're coming from official sources. I think people are taking these photos and trying to put them out there as being legit. But there are plenty of people out there to break these things down. I mean, there's one where you could see, like if you scroll in, you could see they were AI generated, at least some of it. The people's thumbs are all like smeared and crooked, and that's the kind of stuff that you notice from AI, because it ain't there yet. It will be there, but it ain't there yet. There's plenty of detectable stuff. The phones, like two people standing right next to each other with their phones up taking a video in the crowd, but when you zoom in, there's two completely different things on their phones. Like details like this, they don't think about. Details like this, they don't think about. Even AI's not thinking about that yet. Maybe when it gets to general intelligence, it will. But right now, it's not. It's just sloppy work. But it's for a purpose, right? They want it. The people who create that kind of content, they want to believe that it's real. And she did have a few thousand people there. It's not like a Joe Biden one where nobody shows up. They were able to garner a good, which tells you even more, because if they can manufacture a crowd of a few thousand people, like they couldn't even do that. They couldn't even manufacture it for Joe Biden. Like even the people that normally show up, all the non-player characters that normally show up, they're friggin', they're like, nah, I ain't doing that. Screw Biden. I mean, it's pretty epic. But yeah, that comment was absolutely spot on. Whoever gets put into that position is just the next stooge. Didn't matter who they picked. That person was going to draw massive crowds, was going to be the next coming, that person was going to be the savior. Of course they were always going to be a black woman of some variety. I know she's Indian and Jamaican, whatever, but you get my point. But it's just, anyway, that's just, that narrative shift just drives me insane. It really does. And then you got Tim Walz, who, aside from, the fact that he's putting, passing stuff or signing stuff to put, look at this. I got one. What's up, Mike? Thank you for watching. He said, Kamala, let's go, baby. Yeah, Mike's convinced. Thank you for commenting, Mike. I always like the other side on here. But I just got done lambasting this woman. And if you're a Marxist, Mike, then I get it, right? But if you're not, then I don't get it. That's the thing. Like I can respect people like Bernie Sanders, right? Because Bernie Sanders just comes out and goes, dude, I'm a socialist. Like, that's what I am. And so, when you come out and you say that, look, at Bernie, by the way, okay, the Dems haven't had the Democratic Party hasn't had a democratically elected candidate for 3 cycles now. Like Bernie was coming on strong for the last 2, and they just kept knocking him down. And they were like, nope, we want Biden. Just put Biden in there. And then, you know, and Bernie, poor Bernie, and at the end of it, the sad image of Bernie having to come on, and it's got to be eating him alive, and he has to come on and say, I think we should all support, you know, Joe Biden because we can't have Donald Trump, right? But like, it's got to be eating him inside. Like, he knows he just got ejected, right? He knows that if it was left to popular vote, that he may have pulled off the primary, because the primaries have lower counts. They have lower counts of voters, right, for the primaries. And there aren't enough Marxists to carry someone in a general election, right? But there are enough to carry someone in a primary. If they all get out energized and come out in full swoop, they could definitely do. That's like what the Tea Party did in the Republican Party, you know, during those primaries. They went after the primaries, came out in force, came out active, and removed all those, you know, establishment Republicans, only to have the next generation of people who they all thought were good sell their souls like 30 days later. And that's why I advocate, you know, Article 5, because the federal government is fundamentally structurally broken. These people, you know, think about it, right? You send in a senator, let's say you hate your senator, and you vote in this guy who you personally know this guy, right? Like, you know this guy, you know that he's a good human being, you know that he's going to be, you know, he's going to do everything he can to make change. And then he gets elected, he gets in there and becomes the machine, like just gets incorporated by the Borg 60 days later. That's what's happening, right? Or he gets, let's say he doesn't even get in. Let's say he fights, right? He goes in and fights. What is he told when he gets there? Well, you're a freshman. Like, what does that mean? I don't see anything in the Constitution about you're a freshman senator, you're a junior senator, you're a senior, and they take it very seriously. But like, they won't put you in a position to make a difference if they don't like you. It's literally like a high school or a college fraternity. And you have to be around, you know, you've got to play their game or they will never let you get anything done. And that is not the way the Republic was set up. It was not set up to have, you know, to have senators deciding what senator is more powerful than another senator. That's a game they created. But as a voter, you just put this new guy in. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You just put this new person in, and you're expecting them to make a difference, and they just get slapped in the head and told to sit down because they're a freshman. No, they were elected to represent your state, and they need to go in there. Like AOC, I can't stand her, but I got to believe that she believes in what she's doing. I don't believe in any, because she's a pure Marxist, so I don't believe in anything she wants, almost. There are a couple things. I think she was somewhat active on the insider trading stuff where I could find common ground. But in general, her policies, Green New Deal, all that, I can't stand the woman. But I can at least respect the fact that she believes in all of that. I can at least respect that. So Mike over on YouTube says, respect your opinion. Definitely not a Marxist. Definitely a Democrat, just not a far left Democrat. In that case, Mike, I've got to tell you, if only for this election, you cannot vote for this woman. If you're if you're a Kennedy style Democrat, who I absolutely, you know, try to reach out to for the sake that they're sane and that they still stand for things that the Democratic Party had once stood for before. And there's a lot of voters out there who still stand for free speech. There's a lot of voters, like it used to be the Republicans who were getting their, you know, this is not Christian. You should take that. Like it used to be get rid of video games and all this stuff. But that's like totally come full circle now. And frankly, I think Republican establishment people are still there. And that's kind of the point, is that neither party is representing the voter bloc. Neither one. And at this point, like the way I see it, and I've said this a lot of times, you're either an American or you're a Marxist. The Democrat-Republican thing, like, yeah, there are issues there, but, like, frankly, the parties are both two wings on the same bird. Like, if you're not a Marxist, we need to correct this Marxism problem, because there is a Marxism problem, and it needs to get addressed. Like, it can't just be ignored, and we continue to play this illusion that they use to keep us divided. Like, I guarantee you, if you sit down, and I've done this many times with Democrats, except the true loons who are in that Marxist camp, but the average, the old school Democrat who's still, you know, where do they differ? They're big on unions, they're big on free speech, they're big on, they're big on things that now conservatives are big on. Why? Because conservatives were always big on it, but the party was never big on it. Like, yeah, everybody talks a good game with free speech and this and that, but as far as like right now, like, we just need to get back to the fundamentals. We need, like, people need to come together on all sides and just be like, do you love this country or do you hate this country? Because that's the two sides we're at right now. And it's almost at the point, it's like, I don't care what the individual believes in personally, because you're voting for someone who doesn't represent that. And I don't mean you personally, Mike. I'm talking about on all sides. Like there are Republicans in Kentucky that continually voted Mitch McConnell into office, knowing that he's a piece of turd. But they keep voting him in. And it's like, how are you going to keep voting this guy in when you know he represents everything evil about government? Just because he's an R, you couldn't find a better one, really? Same thing on the left with Chuck Schumer. Like, these people don't like you. They don't like you. Like, and this goes for the majority of people in this federal government. This government is the child of the states, and it needs a spanking. That's the bottom line. It needs a spanking. It needs a reality check, and it kills me that people think that it's all over, or they think that we have no power. For right now, for this convention that they're looking to call, all right, for this Article 5 convention that they're looking to call, the topics for the convention are universal, okay? Like for a Democrat like Mike, I don't see Mike having a problem. I could be wrong, Mike. If I'm wrong, knock me down. But I don't see a problem that Mike would have with term limits for Congress and really for all federal officials. I don't see a problem. I don't think he'll have a problem. Most people don't. I don't think he'd have a problem with some fiscal restraints on the federal government, right? Because gas prices and every price, because his money's worth less, affect him as much as everyone. And we all know why it's happening. It's happening not because of evil corporations. It's happening because of government's printing. That's what's going on. That's how inflation happens. People say corporations are getting record profits. They are, but their money's worth less, just like yours is. So it may show that they're making more money because they're charging more, because they're paying more. Like, it goes all the way up the line. But the fact is, when they put that money in the bank, they can buy that much less with it, just like you can. So are they really record profits? Because that money, yeah, the dollars, they got more dollars than they had before, but those dollars are worth like 10%, 20% less. No, the inflation comes from overprinting, period. Right? But I don't think Mike would have a problem with that. With some balanced budget amendments, right? Like, reasonable stuff. There's nothing radical in any of this. Like restrictions on government overreach of power. Really? So like, I don't know of any true Democrat, like a liberal Democrat. Not everyone gets these terms conflated, but liberal Democrat is not a Marxist. Okay? I don't know any true liberal Democrat that is okay with unelected and unaccountable officials making punishable laws through regulatory agencies with no accountability to the voter whatsoever. I don't think people, when it's explained to them what's going on, even though it happens and they've come to accept it as life, when you sit there and explain it to them how it's actually going down, nobody's for it. Nobody's for it. Except that Marxist group. Except them. And they've spent 70 years between the Soviets and the CCP. Like, they now fully own our education system, our freaking, like, you think all this pornography in kids, in middle schools, libraries, like all this stuff is just to break down, continue to break down morality. Jesus or no Jesus, they're just trying to break down morality in general. They want to control your kids, at least in terms of how they think. And the Republicans don't get it twisted that they're all nice in this. It's two wings, same bird. 100 Republicans voted for that last omnibus bill. 100 in the House. That's not a one-off. That's not, oh, there are a few bad apples. The whole freaking thing is rotten. The whole thing. We're all suffering with inflation, and these jerk-offs go and oh, well, we gotta give money to Ukraine. Really? Do we? Are you really looking? Do you think that's what your constituents want? Right? These are House members. These are local districts. Do you think that's really what your constituents want? Do you think they're okay with you printing that $1 billion more to give to another country right now, while eggs are freaking $10 a freaking dozen? No, it's not what their constituents want, but they don't care what their constituents want. None of them do. Screw them all. As much as I disagree with all of Bernie's views coming off X, he believed them. Right. Not allowed in the Democratic Party. Absolutely. Bernie is not a controllable guy. Now, Bernie would take us down a path, I think, that would be devastating, but you're not going to control him. They're not going to take a Bernie Sanders and be able to, manipulate him the way they can Kamala, because Kamala has no core. Right? Joe Biden had dementia and Kamala has no core. Like, she has no core belief. Everything can be changed for her, depending on what she's told. She doesn't understand most of the issues, and she can be turned around she's going to be that lady that sits with the deep state dude and gets told, you have to do what we tell you or the world's going to perish. If you don't do this, your legacy will be this. Like, she has no conviction. Bernie has conviction. Bernie will be like, you know what? I don't give a damn. Just like Trump. Like, Bernie will be like, I don't give a damn what you guys are saying. Like, I don't believe you. And I think you're all full of crap. And I'm burning this whole freaking thing down. Now, there's no way they would let Bernie Sanders become a presidential candidate. He wouldn't win. But that's not why. Kamala can't win either. They could hype Bernie like this too. He'll draw his own crowds. He'll draw better crowds organically than they can create for Kamala. There's enough socialists would be activists on Bernie. They would be showing up. They'd all be. They may only be 25 or 30% of the population, but almost the entire portion of that population would be at his rallies. For sure. All the communist movement folks, all of them. They'd be all over it. Yeah, Bernie's a believer, man. He's a believer. But, it is what it is, I guess. But, I want to show from Tim Walz's standpoint. So, like, if Kamala's obvious incompetence is not enough, all right? And again, I just showed you, like, that compilation of what the Democratic Party thought of her. This was like a month. Those clips were taken from, like, a month before before Biden's debate, not before he resigned, but before his debate. That's where the Democratic Party and all their media machines stood on Kamala. She's the worst. She's polling at 28% likability. All of a sudden now they've got polls coming out that she's ahead. I mean, we're being gaslit on a level that's just ridiculous. It's almost, it is insulting that they would even put out polls like that. There's no way on earth that this woman is even close to Trump in their internal polling. There's no freaking way on earth. She's in a neck and neck tie the same way Hillary was 10 points ahead. Like, it's just, the whole thing is they've got to create the narrative that this was neck and neck going right into it. And you should not take for granted, by the way. Like, you need to make sure you get out there. Do not take for granted anything. Because these people, like, the idea here is you paint it close enough and then see where you can manipulate. A lot of these states are still using these same machines, still using all this garbage, even though the Democratic Party knows and stated publicly repeatedly in the 2016 election how bad these machines are and how they shouldn't be a part of the election process. They're all huge fans now. So all of that apparatus, there are some laws that have changed, but there are still states that require no ID. Like, you don't have to be a citizen to vote. There are multiple, they're all blue, of course, but there are multiple states where you don't have to be a citizen to vote. You can literally just, Scouts honor and go in. There's more than multiple states like that. But here's what a world with Tim. So during the COVID lockdowns, right? Like Tim Walz being the governor of Minnesota, this is what it was like there during the lockdown. So this video came to me from a user, and I want to play it just to give you an idea. Now, this is not real gunfire, okay? But it's enough to piss people off.
No, there's more.
Oh, hold on.
No, there's more. Look at this. They just keep coming.
Go inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get in your house now! Let's go! Light him up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
Get in, get in, get in, get in, get in, get in! Get in!
Oh, God, that hurt. You good?
Are you okay?
Right on the fucking crotch.
Are you okay? You got hit?
I'm good.
Right, so I thought it were real bullets at first. I was like, oh my God.
Okay.
What the hell? I was like, this has to be BS. But then I realized it was paintballs, right? They were shooting paintballs at people. They shot right at their house. Like they were literally on their stoop and they shot right at their house. Like this is a world, right? This is a world that he can live in. Like this is how, there was nothing crazy about that to Tim Walz. Right? Free speech? Mike, you're a liberal.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Yes, there is, Tim. And your feeling that way is incredibly disturbing. And someone just put an absolute novel. Karen Whitty, I see you out there. I can't highlight that comment because it would take like all two of my monitors. But she's dropping some links on Facebook. So, I can't, they're just links. So there's nothing to really put up on the screen. But they're the one that would have put up on the screen. If you could just knock that down by like 90 sentences, it would be great. All right. So Salvador Catalano over on Facebook. They have to push this narrative in order to cheat again. Got to try making it sound close. Right, exactly. In order to make us believe, fall for the steal again. Yeah, they definitely need to. They definitely have a narrative that they have to make, right? And the Fox Newses of the world and the CNNs and all these mainstream folks who are pretending there's this left-right battle going on, and and that they're not pawns to this, right? All those folks are going to keep that narrative going. They are all going to, just continue on with, this is a neck and neck race. And frankly, like I said before, as a voter, you should be treating it that way. Take nothing for granted. We're going to need every single, there's going to be the dead of night, water outage or whatever that never happened, where multiple states stop counting and all of a sudden they take a 2-hour pause and then they come back and all of a sudden, Kamala's made a huge gain. And the lead needs to be absolutely insurmountable, to the point where if they're going to start playing the mail-in ballot game, that it's just impossible to, it's just going to look so ridiculous that it can't, that people just organically don't believe it. Not that 80 million votes for a president with dementia, clearly suffering from dementia, and working out and campaigning out of his basement. 80 million votes, really? 20 million more votes than Obama got, really? Right? And I mean, this is the stuff that you're asked to believe, but I guess, it's the same thing as believing, if you don't have question marks after just hearing that number, you think Biden was that great a candidate? Now, keep in mind, there are almost no situations where people not wanting a guy were able to get their other guy in, because the energy's not there. It's, to me, it's a law of attraction thing why that statistic is there, because everybody's putting their energy into one person, and whether it's negative or positive, it's all going to that person, and things go where the energy goes, and that's what happens. Like law of attraction, if you're not into it, the whole idea is that what thoughts become things, right? Is basically how it works, and it's about energy flow and all that. And when it comes down to it, if people are all emotional about one candidate, that candidate will usually win. Will always win, according to American history, until Joe Biden. The man had set so many records with that election. Most votes in most popular president in American history. With dementia, right? And it was obvious. Like he was making these gaffes and stupid things. We were all saying he had dementia when he was running. Everybody was saying it. Now, yes, it got like to the point where he's now, people are joking about body doubles and stuff, but like in the end, he always was slow. He was always off kilter. It was obvious that he should have been getting medical attention instead of running for president, and it didn't matter. He was because he was so awesome that many people came out in his support. So, one other thing that I wanted to post, and I'm just going through some of the videos. I'm going to finish off with this last segment where I just go through some of the videos that I've seen this week that I thought were wild. Wild or worth noting. One of which are baby drop boxes, which apparently have existed for a couple of years, and I had no idea. And I can't imagine a farther fall from grace for society for these to even be a thing. But I understand sort of where they're coming from with it, but it's just the fact that anyone would ever use one is insane. So they have these boxes in Alabama, and I'm going to show them to you, where if you want to abandon your baby, you go to the abandoned baby box and leave your baby in there. And it's like at a fire station, and when you open the door and close it, like a silent alarm goes off to notify them that a baby was put in the baby abandonment box, and it's been used 3 times. It's been used 3 times. I'm like, what in the world? Like immediately when I saw it, I was like, I have to check this out. And when I did, that's what it said. It was used 3 times. Karen Whitty, how are you over on Facebook? America needs voter ID and paper ballots. Absolutely. Absolutely. There is absolutely no reason. There is no need whatsoever for any kind of computer ballot system. None. Now, I don't know that I'd be fully opposed to just the ones that are completely, they're not made with internet connectivity. They're just made to make the vote clear, right? So you put in what you want. Like those are the ones by me where you put in what you want and it prints out your choices. And then, but they're not like connected to anything. I checked actually. So there were no Ethernets, no cables. I guess you could, get really skeptical and say, well, they could be connected to Wi-Fi, but I'm pretty sure they weren't. But just to make sure the ballot is clear, right? Because then you don't get into one of these hanging Chad for those of us who are around for the 2000 election, right? You don't get into that nonsense. But thank you for watching, Karen. I appreciate you. Joe Makovic, I'll be watching you on Rumble. Thank you. I'll thank you. Thank you, Joe. And if you're doing X, I would definitely appreciate a follow there too. A lot of my viewers, Rumble, I generally get the most viewers at simultaneous, like right now there are like 14 on Rumble. The rest of them are a little more ambiguous. Like I don't really know. Like it says 30 views on X, but I don't know if that's 30 people watching now, or if that's just, 30 people have watched in total, or, but it usually adds up somewhere, around 60 or 70 or so. Facebook, YouTube is usually like 1. YouTube is brutal. It's just brutal. But like right now, so there were 2, on, and as soon as I came on, they must have saw me and went back to 1. So, but yeah, Rumble, I get, there's always 15, 20 people, something like that. But the following there just doesn't seem, they come back and watch, and the stats are showing, they don't tell me who, but they tell me it's return viewers, but they don't click the follow. So I'd appreciate that. if you could give me the follow there. And then Sixth Society, yeah, absolutely, Karen, for sure. Nate Lassade over on YouTube. Nice, you're the one watching on YouTube. How are you, Nate? Thank you for giving us a look over there. I would ask you, Nate, just because I don't know when I'm going to get thrown off YouTube again. But it would be very helpful to me if you're on X or Rumble, if you could follow me on one of those platforms. I'm trying to grow X aggressively, so that's where I would hope you go. But if you could do both, that'd be awesome. So he says, we have voter ID and paper ballots in Australia, and voting is compulsory. If you don't vote, you get fined. Yeah, I don't know if I want to go that route, right? I don't want to fine people, because my attitude is like, if you don't want to vote, stay away. If I have to force you to vote, who knows what lever you're going to pull or what damage you're going to do to the country. Like if you're someone who absolutely wants your life to be governed by somebody else, yeah, I probably don't want you to be, because that's what not voting is, right? It's basically saying, right, like, I'm okay with whatever happens, right? I'll just bow to whatever government gets chosen, and I'll just, go on living my life until one day you can't live your life because the government that was chosen usurped it, right? So that's interesting. That is interesting. I appreciate that education about how it goes down in Aussie land. Karen Whitty over on Facebook. Karen, thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys as well. And I'm gonna break from the comments for just a moment, and then try and get through some of these videos, because some of them are kind of weird. So yeah, I hate to use that word now, but like now you say something's weird, immediately I have these visions of the Marxist machine. All right, so one of the videos. Now, this one I'm about to show. Now, for those of you who have been with me for a long time, when January 6th was going down, and I was scouring the internet to find different footage and different things, and I found that footage where the folks said, "Hands up, don't shoot," right in the crowd, and then they started blasting 5 flashbangs, stuff like that. So I found some good stuff, right? And in one of those videos, there was a highlight. I think I actually led the video off with this clip. Was a Cuban gentleman and a Chinese woman, both American citizens, okay? They're both Americans. And they're, the American who's a Cuban, I like to say it that way better, the American citizen who was from Cuba was, just got hit with a flashbang or some tear gas, and was like, they were helping him and whatever. And he's basically saying, my father went through this, he was a political prisoner in Cuba, and like, he was an older gentleman. And then the Chinese woman was like, the Chinese native was like, she lived in China too, and was like, you cannot let this country become a socialist country. I know what's happening here, and she's basically letting as most Americans that have experienced China at firsthand, right, had grown up there first before migrating legally and becoming citizens. That's you listen to those people talk, and they know, because they've seen it firsthand. And then there was this gentleman that came up, who I'm adding to my collection of people who are first generation immigrants, who I think are the best ones. Number one, they've passed their exam, which means in general they know more civics than the average American, frankly, which is a little embarrassing. But nonetheless, the reason why I think they're some of the best Americans is because it's fresh for them. They know what they ran from. And this man left China for that very reason. And for that reason,
Chinese Americans support Trump. All right. So the reason is the Democrat administration, Biden administration, lead this country towards socialism and eventually towards communist dictatorship. We came from China. We know this is the way. This is not like people here don't understand what is a communist is. We know communist is, what communist is. That's why we support Trump.
This is really interesting because I'm also Chinese American myself. So I know
you haven't lived in China, I guess.
I did. I grew up in China. I grew up in China till I was 17. I'm from Shanghai. But yeah, I don't want to talk about my opinions because I'm a journalist. So I just want to hear more about your opinions, as immigrants, a lot of people might say that Trump is anti-immigrants or,
Trump is not anti-immigrant. It's just against illegal immigrant. Right. It must be lawfully, orderly.
Right. Totally common sense, dude. And this is not, as much as I bash the CCP, I love first generation immigrants from everywhere. Legal immigrants, first generation from everywhere, love them. Especially those from communist countries, because they appreciate where they are. They appreciate the United States for what it is. They know the evil of communism firsthand. And I guarantee you, if this man grew up there, he's got a parent or grandparents, because he looks up there himself, maybe 50, 60, something like that. Maybe older, because Asians seem to never age. My wife's family are like, they're like old, but they look young as hell. But like, this guy knows firsthand what it is, the Cultural Revolution. He has relatives who went through, like, they know what they're looking for. When they come here and they see this messaging, right? Even the stupid stuff, like with Kamala, everyone's making fun of, like, look forward, not being burdened by what has been. Like, that's Marxist stuff. People don't realize that's Marxist, okay? Like, that entire content, that's why it's repeated so often. Because it's designed to look at what has been as if everything about America has been a disaster. The Great American Experiment is one of the most successful the most successful exercise in individual liberty that has ever existed. More opportunity exists in this country, even with the Marxists subverting our schools and Hollywood and like, let's face it, right? Most of us are just not. They haven't made a good movie worth watching in how long, right? They haven't made a good movie worth watching in how long? And everybody knows that, right? Joe McGavick, totally agree with legal immigration. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And that's where most people sit, right? And whether they're Trump supporters, this is why I say there's only Americans and Marxists, right? I don't know if we can get Mike back on YouTube. It looks like he left, but like, because he was the the token Democrat that came on and gave some comments, and I highlighted him. But like Mike said, like, I'm definitely not a Marxist. I am a Democrat. So he hasn't made that distinction, right? So he's still that Kennedy type Democrat, right? Who's out there. And there are a lot of those people, and but those people are still watching CNN, right? Even if they know, right? There was that Colbert clip. He had one of the CNN people on. And it wasn't intended to be a laugh line, but he was like, well, you guys at CNN, you objectively do the news. You're objectively and everyone started cracking up. She was like, is that a laugh line? And he was like, well, it wasn't supposed to be, but I guess so. It's like people instinctively know, right? Regardless of what they're portraying on those news networks and comedy shows and whatever else. So, but another one that I had, here's the baby drop. I started talking about that. I didn't show the video. So here's the one. Maybe you guys knew about this and I'm just ignorant because it's been around for a few years. But look at this.
When a mom walks up to one of our Safe Haven baby boxes and she needs to utilize this resource that we have available for her, she's going to walk directly up to the box. She's going to pull the little handle. She's going to open up the door. As soon as this door is opened up, one of the alarms is already going off. It's a silent alarm that mom will not hear. When she places baby inside the box, another alarm goes off that she will not hear. When she shuts the door, she won't be able to reopen the door. The door actually locks once baby's placed inside. The baby can only be retrieved from the inside of the fire station, or in this case, the inside of the hospital. Inside, you'll see a green light that is always green if there.
Okay, has anyone seen this before? Because when I saw it, I was floored. Now, I understand that, they're trying to say, well, if, people do abandon babies, and if they're going to do it, at least do it like this. Don't just leave them in a dumpster or some, like, I get that. But 3 people have used this. And I'm just, now, mind you, I guess, look, I guess it's better than like, hundreds of people is starting to become a trend, right? That's, I guess, a good sign. But like, and certainly those 3 people, I mean, what does it take for a human being to do something like that? Like, why would you not just go to an adoption agency? Like there are avenues, right, to go to. And I feel like the sick people, I guess what I should have looked up is how many babies were abandoned elsewhere with these things in place. Because I feel like it almost encourages someone to abandon a baby and just like walk away. That's my take on it. But like when I saw this, it absolutely floored me. I was just like, what the hell? Like, and then they get into like what the inside is like and all that.
There is no baby in our box. Once there's a baby placed in our box, you'll see a green plus a yellow orangish light because the beam from across has been broken. After mom places her baby in one of our Safe Haven baby boxes, one of the staff or the EMTs or the paramedics or the nurses will come down to the baby box. They're going to open the inside door. They're going to grab the bassinet.
Imagine being a fireman and like you're at work and you're doing your thing, right? I know they work like a few days in a row and then a few days off, and like you're at work and things are slow, and all of a sudden this thing goes off. Like, what the hell? Right? I don't know. There's just a part of me that thinks that this is crazy, but there's another part of me that kind of understands that there are crazy people in the world. But I don't know. I don't know. Let me know what you think. To me, it's like, does it encourage it, or is it, people are gonna dump babies anyway, and you just gotta, just gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. But like, but this is just one of those. I don't know. I'm not comfortable with it. I'll say that. It makes me uncomfortable. It takes a lot to make me uncomfortable. Something like this makes me uncomfortable. Like, and again, like I kind of understand the point, but I've never seen anything like that, and it just blew me away that they did that. All right, folks, look, I'm coming on 2 hours, so this it's actually turned out to be a lot longer than I expected, but it was cathartic, and I'm glad, and I am appreciative for everyone who was commenting, and the comments really were coming from across platforms, although I don't recall any comments from Rumble. Let me check, see that working, or see, this is what I mean, like Rumble through this whole broadcast, it's consistently been between 15 and 25 people on Rumble, but I got no comments. Right now, 18. Right? And Rumble, folks, if you're commenting, all right, make sure you comment on the live chat on the right side. That's the ones that I can see. I can't see, I don't think, regular comments below. Sometimes that was an issue. I don't know why Rumble makes it confusing like that. There should only be one, but they do. So that would be something for Rumble. But, other than that, look, folks, I've been trying like hell to come on Sundays, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I just have too much going on the weekends. But, sooner or later, I'm going to pop up there. So if you're following, make sure whatever platform you're following on, it generally will have an additional option to, get alerts when they go live, or get alerts, get all alerts. I don't go crazy on these platforms, so you're not going to get inundated with notifications with me. Like when you might get one a week, 2 a week, something like that, or a simple post or something, but you're not going to get more than 2 anyway, live events that come up. But if you don't, especially if you're following on like Facebook or YouTube, if you don't have that feature hit under follow where you want to get all alerts, you likely will get very few. So because they act like it. My own mom was at one point was not getting alerts from people, and Lord knows, she catches them all. So that with that, I want to just make sure I hit you with that, and of course, t-shirts like this one that I wear on the broadcast, which I'm supposed to promote in the beginning before I waterboard people for 2 hours are available on the website. Things like Yuri Was Right. There are some Article 5 ones. There's these two are both Article 5, and then there's one of my favorites, Make Civics Great Again. Social Studies Sucks underneath. So all these shirts are available online. So at thepatriotthinktank.com, there's a link to my Etsy store there where you can purchase them and support me and the broadcast. All right, folks. Until next time, not where I want to go. Here's where I want to go. All right, folks. Until next time, I'm out. I'll see you on Thursday.